All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to our next Innovatology episode. Today will be slightly not traditional, but first let me introduce the Innovatology. Because Innovatology is one stop shop to the latest tech and innovations, and we usually speak about technologies such as artificial intelligence, VR, AR, etc. However, today we will dive deeper into the red light therapy and healing with Kineon, which I am really excited about because we have been in the Health Optimization Summit earlier this year, and we met actually a really interesting person who is also with me here in this virtual room, and it's Forrest Smith. With whom we will have this interesting discussion around the innovation in the health. So, hello, Forrest. How are you?
Hey, Marie. Great to see you today. Super excited to have this discussion with you. It's such a cool platform you're building here.
Thank you very much. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience, who you are and what you are doing? What is maybe also your vision?
Absolutely. My name is Forrest Smith. I'm co-founder and CEO of Kineon, and we make wearable laser devices that help people get out of pain and back into movement, and have an alternative to physiology damaging pharmaceuticals. Yeah, we're here really to help people improve their quality of life and try to measure that in the most meaningful way we can. That's our mission as a company.
And how did you start it with Kineon? Because I think that your first product have been this red light laser, if I'm not
That's right.
mistaken, or was it later? What was actually the first product that Kineon have made?
Yes, our wearable laser. I think I have mine here somewhere. I use it kind of every morning, so yes, floating around here. We have a wearable laser device, and essentially what we've done and how we started into that was more around our mission. My partner and I met. We actually didn't meet in person for the first 4 years of working together, but we did meet around the kind of a meeting of our minds around the purpose and mission to be able to improve the quality of life for the largest number of people we can in the most measurable way we can. And that's how we came to. We evaluated probably 10 different technologies, and photobiomodulation or light therapy had kind of the best opportunity to be able to move this quality of life needle for as many people as possible. Now we're up, I think, around 35,000 people who have adopted the device, have been able to minimize or completely come off of opiates and nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and really kind of improve their lives and their movement because of that. So it's been really gratifying on this journey to be able to see those pain to possible journeys is how we think about it for our users.
And it seems to me that also nowadays red light therapy is kind of boom because when you go to these like health summits, etc., biohacking, everything is about the red light. So what makes Kineon special, or what is the unique value proposition in comparison with other red lights that are on the market currently?
It's a great question. I think one of the things that we've seen from the trajectory for red light coming into the market is there are kind of generation one products where people are using LEDs and they're using a kind of a panel format. The one of the keys for laser therapy or red light therapy is the dosing. And if you're using a panel or if you're using LEDs, dosing internal tissue is almost impossible to dose correctly. We compare it kind of in an analogy to if you have pain and you're taking pills, it's almost like taking a bottle of pills and shaking it, a couple of feet in front of your face and hoping that the right dose falls in. It's great because it's been introducing kind of the concept of red light therapy and physiological adaptations to a broader audience. But for us, our core technology is around the dosing. And so we spend tens of thousands of man hours in the physiology, in the medical trials, in the research. And then we've also built our own, what they call Monte Carlo mathematical models for how photons distribute through tissue. And we know what we're trying to trigger from a photoacceptor standpoint in the physiology, in the tissue. And we know where it exists and at what depth of tissue and what it responds to from a wavelength and a light characteristic standpoint. And so our kind of proprietary research in this space has given us a much more effective dosing model for being able to deliver the most effective level of photons to the photoacceptors. And again, it allows us to promise and deliver reasonably high expectations for pain reduction, inflammation reduction, soft tissue regrowth, and recovery. And so, yeah, we've just been really kind of blessed with a great user base who's also guided us in how they have friction points in the use. And so, if you have a huge panel or if you have things that aren't travel friendly from a device standpoint, it just offers more resistance on a daily, more friction on a daily basis. And so our goal from a product design has been to reduce these friction points and help people start using this and building habits around it so that they can really replace a lot of the more damaging pharmaceutical solutions in the space.
That's amazing. I really love it because also actually my grandma she stole my Kineon. I bought one when we were in the health optimization summit, and she had a problem with a knee. But every time when she went to the doctor, they gave her pills or injections, and it didn't really help. It was even more painful. And then she just stole my Kineon because it just was really helpful for her. And I really like also what you said that it's about the dosing because we also have, for example, red light sauna at home. However, it's really good, like for example, for relaxation to like expose your whole body, but you don't really feel, for example, that your exact injury would, for example, heal at a certain place. So, for example, I had an injury, and then when I'm exposing my body to the like red light sauna, it's rather for relaxation, for meditation, but it doesn't really repair the tissues, the soft tissues, etc. And this Kineon device was really helping me that I, for example, put it around the certain place, and immediately it started to heal, and I could see immediate improvement of that place, also of my grandma. I mean, she started to run around after usage, so it just speaks about itself. And
That's so exciting. That's really kind of our focus for the company has been to help people kind of, and we've it's been so exciting because we get to deal with kind of NFL or NBA players or Premier League soccer players. But to be honest, personally, the most kind of motivating part of my job is seeing our older cohort where this really isn't like I need to make a performance change. This is actually life changing for them because they can get up and down stairs now. They can actually sleep again without that chronic pain. And those kind of testimonials come in, really almost on a daily basis right now. And it's, whenever you're tired or overworked, we go into our group where the testimonials are posted and just kind of look through these impacts that we're having on people's lives. And it's so exciting. It really kind of builds the energy back up for our team.
that's really nice. And currently, you are based in which country? The Kineon and yourself, is it in the same country?
No, actually, our team is spread all around the world. So we've approached this with an idea that we find world class people regardless of what the geography is, and then we use technology to kind of bridge the gaps and help bring everyone together. But I'm based in Mexico. I'm American originally. I'm based in
Oh,
Mexico. My business partner Tom is from the UK. He's British and he's based in Malaysia. But I think our team, we have a team meeting monthly, and we're covering I think 14 different time zones now. So whenever you show up for a team meeting, somebody's in their pajamas and somebody's having their morning coffee, and it's great. You get to see kind of the best of the best from around the world.
we have the same in Innovatology. We are also based globally. I also feel that it's a future of the work that you just take the people from the different geographical areas with the different talents, also the diversity. It just brings a really nice creativity into the product, and you then can also work closer together if you have also the similar kind of mindset. I'm, by the way, coming to Mexico next week, so it's also quite a coincidence that
Yeah, if you have a chance, come visit us. We're here, training, testing out, 100 different recovery modalities, different training modalities for, trying to stay as healthy and as much in the thrive state as we can. So yeah, if we can connect while you're here, I'd love to.
yes. And where exactly, in which city in Mexico?
I'm in Querétaro. It's in central Mexico, just north of Mexico City, and
Okay.
it's a really amazing kind of dynamic, fast growing, like really cool town. It's
Okay.
been here for a few years now. Usually living in China. I lived in China for almost 20 years
Wow.
before I moved here.
Okay, interesting. I never have been in China, and it will be my first time in Mexico. So definitely, you give me some ideas also about other destinations that I have to visit because it's really an inspiration to always come to the different countries and to just absorb to just absorb the new for Kineon. Because the do you also do, you said that you have like a testimonial center, you do researches. So what is next for Kineon? What in terms of this device? Or I also saw in the Health Optimization Summit also another gadget, I think, that you currently have in stakes.
Yeah, so our plan is to continue rolling out the devices really in line with our mission, which is how can we improve people's quality of life. So our next product is a gut health product, and the reason we've moved forward with that is because your gut is really at the center of so many different things, so many different systems. I think it's more commonly known now that the gut brain axis is a really powerful axis for how you experience life on a daily basis. But there's also kind of gut, liver, and other axes that you impact by treating the gut. And so we're super excited to bring this product out. We'll be delivering it by the end of this year. So December, January is when we're going to start delivering our Gut Plus is the device. It's four different laser wavelengths, and it's extremely impactful for a number of different things. One is impacting brain chemistry, increasing dopamine and serotonin and things like brain-derived neurotrophic factor that are kind of linked with the neuroplasticity that we'd all like to be able to carry on in our lives that we have when we're young and tends to drop off from a brain chemistry as we age. But being able to trigger that by gut treatment is one of the things that's been very powerful in the medical research and the literature over the past 5 to 10 years. And then we also have a vagus nerve, an EEG enabled vagus nerve stimulation device, which is really one of the things that we have committed to as a mission is to improve people's quality of life. But the key point for us is to be held accountable for that. And so how can we measure it? And this is one of the things that we're going to be doing with all of our products moving forward over the coming years is introducing in sensor feedback loops. So with an EEG, we can measure vagus nerve activity, we can measure heart rate activity, we can measure respiratory activity, and we can build a picture of what kind of state people are in relative to their autonomic nervous system. Are they in fight or flight? Are they in rest or digest? And when they are in fight or flight, how can we help trigger them with electrical stimulation to the vagus nerve? And it's very interesting. It's even with our early prototypes, we're looking at being able to see kind of before this picture of that kind of fight or flight state, and then during treatment, and then short term, middle term, and long term adaptations that people can make because of this. And I think it's still early days in the data, but a couple of things that we're seeing decrease are chronic anxiety and ruminative thoughts. And then one of the biggest measures for the combination of those two things is a measurement they call time to sleep. If you lay down in bed and you have a number of things going through your head that are not necessarily thoughts that you want, that are kind of unwanted thoughts coming in that keep you from going to sleep. So these are generally termed ruminative thoughts. And by being able to reduce those in a 5 to 10 minute session, even with our early devices, we're taking that 2 hour kind of, people who have these type of sleep issues, taking that 2 hour time to sleep down to under 10 minutes with a very, a very simple and direct electrical treatment for the vagus nerve. And it's really exciting to see that because sleep is so important. And there's just so many people out there with, particularly in our modern world, with, the social disconnect that we're at, the number of things that we're kind of triggering from a doom scrolling and all of these different electrical devices that we interact with, many of them are triggering less than healthy mental wellness. And being able to trigger a vagus nerve, being able to understand and diagnose, and then trigger a vagus nerve shift so that people can go back to recovering more effectively and to not having these ruminative thoughts is a really powerful tool. So we're super excited to bring that one out as well.
I'm also really excited. I actually have now one device which is actually stimulating vagus nerve. I don't know if you know Pulsetto, and it's that
Yes.
you put it like around your neck. And we actually did we also did podcast with the CEO of Pulsetto, and he
Yes.
has also really interesting like story, etc. And it's really like when you're stimulating the vagus nerve, like your cheeks are actually you can like feel it. And so it's the vagus nerve, it's a really powerful to stimulate. You can also do it by, for example, humming or meditation, like when you do, for example, for like
Yes.
20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you stimulate it. However, these devices, it's also for our audience, these devices, when you use the stimulations of the vagus nerve, like, for example, the electronic devices, it can actually help you to gain time because you can activate your vagus nerve within like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on your exact problem. If you have a stress, anxiety, or the sleep issues, and it just gain you the time. So you don't need to hum for at least like 20 minutes, but you can stimulate it within less. So I would be really interested in your solution and how different it would be with the other competitors on the market currently. But also, I wanted to speak about the brain gut axis, because this is something really, I think, underestimated in nowadays society. Like, brain gut axis is actually also for our audience to understand that there is a research behind that. Actually, the mitochondria that is in the stomach is actually influencing our brain. So there is an axis that the more you care about what you eat, the more you care also about your brain. You can have also less, for example, brain fogs if you care about what you eat and how you care about your stomach as such. So this one is really interesting. That is also coming for you the end of this year, and you said that there will be like 6 lasers. So among them, there is like it's based on the red light therapy, or what are the other lasers that will be in that device provided?
It's actually primarily infrared because we need the infrared to be able to penetrate more effectively. The red is good. We actually use a deep red to be able to bring more blood to the surface, kind of superficial tissue in the area. But the we're using there's 3 wavelengths. The one that has been traditionally most effective has been the 808 to 810 nanometer wavelength, which is a near infrared. There's over the past 2 to 3 years, there's also been testing and trials with basically in the 905 to 940 range, and we're testing with a couple of different wavelengths in that space to optimize it as much as possible. And then one of the other ones that actually penetrates very effectively and triggers some different photoacceptors and outcomes in the body is 1064. And so we're building in 1064 as well as a fourth wavelength. And essentially what we noticed when we were building our laser therapy models for how photons distribute through tissue around our first product, the Move Plus, was that this was a really effective dosing model, and that nobody really had an existing version of this that had been mapped against outcomes and the actual physiological responses. And so one of the things that we're doing with this now is we are building systems that leverage this dosing model in the most effective way possible. And so it allows us to build additional products that are going to be able to dose harder to dose parts of the body. And so, as an example, we've got the gut product that will be launching next. We'll also be launching a femtech product that essentially was triggered by a number of our users from the Move Plus having amazing results for treating endometriosis, and that started our research team down a rabbit hole into why are we seeing these really, really powerful responses in reduced pain and inflammation for endometriosis? And what's come out of that is not just endometriosis, but treatments for perimenopause and menopause, fertility, and dysmenorrhea. So monthly menstrual pain and inflammation is actually a huge level of inflammation that again, our team is primarily male, and this was something that we weren't familiar with. But as you dig into it, the photobiomodulation treatment is almost perfectly suited because the ovarian tissue and the uterine tissue are actually very high density of mitochondria. And it's also kind of monthly menstrual inflammation is one of the highest inflammation rates in all of the human experience, by orders of magnitude more than kind of a recovery or an injury type thing. So it's been, it's unfortunate that there's not more research going into female specific pathologies like this, but it's something that once we started digging into, that our community kind of flagged for us about their amazing experiences with this, where they were going from an 8 out of 10 in pain and almost kind of disabled for the day or 2 days around this endometriosis to 0 within 20 to 30 minutes of treatment. And it's When you hear one person say this as anecdote, but when you hear 30 or 40 people, we had to go trigger our medical team to go look into it and understand a little bit more about why we were seeing such powerful responses.
Mm. That's really impressive. Also, I like that you look from the other experiences, because I wanted to ask, like, when you are really male team, like, how did you come up actually with that women are also having this kind of issues? But you have actually clarified, so I don't need to ask that. But it's really interesting, because I also recently I was in the office, and one of my colleagues just told me that she's claustrophobic. And usually I know about claustrophobia and about other phobias, but she actually was telling me more about how it influences her life, like how she needs to make different choices in what she does on the daily basis. And it really gave me a different perspective on situation, on a simple situation, for example, how you cook at home, or like how you go to toilet, because she needs to think about what kind of doors are implemented in the toilet, and that she doesn't understand why this material is used for toilet, why not that one, because she feels claustrophobic around the different type of materials. And I was like, wow, this is totally like different perspective on an issue, that if you are not in that kind of skin, you don't really like think about it, you just are like a usual customer. But then when you dig deeper into other people's perspectives, like for example you had with a female, you are like, wow, this is just like impressive that not more people are interested in this, and why we actually didn't dig deeper in this, like in the science or these things. So it's super impressive that you are actually getting there with also females, because it's still like 50% of population which are female, and we will also have probably an issue in the future with the artificial intelligence, in this case, that most of the like scientific articles and researches are actually loaded into AI. And if we don't take into consideration the female perspective, all of the artificial intelligence will be trained on the male examples, which can trigger also uh, wrong decision making to exclude the 50% of the populations.
Yeah, there's a certain imbalance there, and it's crazy. And we didn't you don't if you're not looking into it from a research standpoint in the first place, you just don't realize this. And so for our team, it was kind of an epiphany that this is something where it's completely under researched. If you compare, as an example, we did a bit of a dive on the amount of money going into erectile dysfunction versus endometriosis, and it is tens of thousands of times more funding going for erectile dysfunction, which is just it seems crazy. Endometriosis is affecting something like 12 to 14% of the female population, and in about half of those cases, incapacitating people for days, a month. And it's just crazy that that's not more heavily researched. And it's nice now that we've kind of flagged this with our internal team, because there's a gap there, and it's it fits our technology extremely well. So we're very happy to be able to kind of bring something to market, but as a systemic kind of outcome, it's just crazy. It's almost inexplicable.
So this is also a reminder for our audience that when you have some issue from your perspective, you just should speak up, give the feedback to the product owners, to the people, to the CEO about your own problems, because sometimes it's always really good to speak about the other people's perspectives, because it can then trigger a change, which, for example, it did in the Kineon, that somebody shared the feedback, and then other people, other female, etc. This is just a reminder to speak up about and giving a feedback. I'm entrepreneur myself, and it's always like I really like this kind of like thinking. There is, for example, what do you want for a Christmas or for a birthday, and then it's not about like when you are entrepreneur, it's not about the money or getting a gift, but it's rather about, for example, a review. Give your friend a good review of their product for their birthday, because this is sometimes the best gift that you can give them for important day, etc.
Yeah. Or one other thing that really helps, and I think that's been so important for us in communicating with we have a very tight community, and they provide us really amazing feedback that's helped us drive uh, product design decisions and product roadmap. But one of the things that I think has been really important for us in that aspect is you have to have a community that's open to giving critical feedback as well. And you have to have a team that's open to critical feedback, because it's great to have positive feedback. Hey, this is working great. Let's all go into the into the shiny sunset. But being able to take on meaningful critical feedback is really what drives a lot of the changes that we can make from a product standpoint, from an adoption, from helping people build habits. And you have to have both the team, you have to have both the community that feels comfortable to provide that, but also the team that's going to accept it. And I think we've been really lucky in the team that we've built, that they've been very connected with our community, and really have taken on that critical feedback in a really positive way.
Nice. Yes, it's also like I have, for example, this is what I like about my brother, because I always say that when I have some idea and if it doesn't get through my brother, then it doesn't. It's not going to be successful, because he's the biggest critic of myself, not in like a bad way, but he always like have really like a strong opinions about the products, about the websites, etc. So every time when I do something and it gets through my brother, it's then
Successful.
yes.
That's awesome.
So this is always good to have also the criticism, because you know what you can improve. And I have a question regarding this red light therapy, because it's the main focus of the Kineon. When was the first time that you were in contact with the red light therapy? What was?
So my mother brought it to my attention. She's been an early
Oh,
adopter, and worked with a number of different kind of functional medicine doctors and naturopaths to stay healthy. I think a lot of these things. I live very heavily in the science and the data, and so a lot of the things that come in, I would say the hit rate on these things is probably 60% or so. Many of them, it comes in and it's like, well, I feel like it's my job to kind of, similar to your brother, to disprove these things and say, hey, that's not correct. This is what the medical literature says about it. And so that was my first response. It's a very, and we get this still from a lot of people, and it kind of makes sense. Like, it's, how does, like, I'm going to shine a light on my body and expect physiological adaptation? It's a really kind of unusual and counterintuitive thing to assume. And the other thing that we've noticed with this is that a lot of people are very skeptical about it, not just because it's a counterintuitive concept, but also because when you can reduce inflammation, the number of pathologies that translates through to impacting is very high. There's so much of the body is, so many of the pathologies that we suffer as humans are either metabolically influenced or inflammation influenced. And because we impact both metabolic function and improve metabolic impairment and also reduce inflammation, we can make a number of claims relative to different pathologies and different outcomes. And I think that raises skepticism, and it did for me as well. Like, how could you possibly be treating all of these different things? But I think what it comes down to is, we're not treating all these different pathologies. We're treating metabolic dysfunction, and we're treating inflammation. And by doing that, and kind of the oxidative stress reduction that the devices can make, there was a very deep dive for about 3 months after my mother introduced the technology to me, where I just couldn't believe the numbers for it, because there's over 6,000 different medical studies on photobiomodulation, or low level laser therapy, which is essentially light therapy. And in all of these, where the dosing models are correct, you see positive outcomes. And there's these great kind of forest plots showing, like, all of these outcomes relative to kind of placebos or other baseline treatments, and they're all very effective when the dosing is correct. And so it took me a little time to come around and lose my skepticism. But the main point of it is that this is a really powerful tool when it's dialed in properly. And we try to, as a team, under promise and over deliver from an expectation standpoint. And the only way that that's possible with a treatment modality like this is to really understand what you're triggering from a photoacceptor in the body, and then what that does from a downstream signaling, if that makes sense.
yes, it makes total sense. And it's when you are speaking about the research and like how actually all of the studies are speaking positively about the red light therapy and the photogenic, etc. Do you also collaborate with the health system? Because like it's very well known that the health system doesn't really, it's not really open to these alternatives. But do you see some, for example, do you have some collaboration with some hospitals or the doctors, etc.?
Yes, we have collaborations with hospitals for research, and we also work on a number of different kind of observational studies that we've kicked off and run with things like fibromyalgia and plantar fasciitis. So things as disparate or as different as kind of pain-based pathologies like fibromyalgia or soft tissue-based pathologies like plantar fasciitis. We've seen really powerful results by working on observational studies with hospitals. Going forward, I think one of the things that we're looking at right now is there's a number of really cool companies in the regulatory space that are essentially a number of people have noticed that getting products through medical trials is overly expensive and overly complicated and is very uncertainly linked to your outcomes relative to things like FDA claims and indications for use. And one of the nice things that we're seeing right now, and it's a very exciting time to be in the hardware space because of this, is there's a number of new startups. And as an example, reputable.health is one that we're working with on scoping new trials that are going to be much more accessible because there's so many more devices. So with these type of disruptive technologies, there's millions of people out there now with a Whoop strap or an Aura ring or, a Levels Health continuous glucose monitor, or there you go. Yes, this now with the data, we can take our users and have people opt in who have a Whoop strap, who have a continuous glucose monitor, who have different HRV kind of tracking, who have different electrical signal tracking in their body, and we can build out a more robust picture of longitudinal data across 6-year-olds to 70-year-olds, how people are responding to these different treatments. And so it's really it's an exciting time to be in the space, and we're kicking off later this year and early next year a couple of new studies that are going to be based around these type of ongoing longitudinal data grabs relative to people's kind of health and responsiveness to different therapeutics.
Super interesting that like the health system is actually open to it, especially now with the technology innovations related to innovatology. We are going faster and faster into the spheres that we would not imagine just few years ago, that it makes it so much easier for the people to actually analyze and optimize their health based on the HRV, heart rate, sleep data, etc., because of the variables, and it's also really accessible. It's like, before we had a telephone which was based in each household, you couldn't put it in your pocket. Today, everybody has their own phones. And with these variables and with these things, we can optimize our health much easier. Also, like Kineon, that we can have it at home and decrease the inflammation. So I think that also the health system in the future will need to come through some kind of revolution, let's say, because we will no longer need to come to the doctor without having the data what works or what doesn't work, and like based on these variables, I think that it would make so much sense if we would just come to the doctor and we would be like, yeah, this is my HRV, this is my heart rate, this is my sleep data, can you please tell me what I do wrong, because I tried everything and I don't know what is going on. And then we can just try, we can like analyze also based on the variables again if it works or not. But currently it's really rigid, but I see that there are a bit of movements also. For
Yes.
example, the Wim Hof method, for example, I also was in Netherlands this year with Wim Hof, and he was also saying about the health system that it's really rigid, and he tries to introduce the ice baths into the hospitals, because there is also like researches behind that ice baths can help with, for example, cancer, and that they have actually researches on the oncology, children oncology, where it's actually helping. But when he was asking, so why you don't introduce the ice bath in the children oncology when you know that it works, and they were like, because the system is rigid, we don't we have money, but it's like so slow to actually get it into our system that it will take time. It's slightly
That's,
sad, but
that's exactly it. It takes time and it's uncertain, and it takes time and money to go through that. So either, what you find in the space, and we've been kind of working on the same type of thing, is to get into these hospital systems. Either you have, a huge, and we've been kind of an organically grown, bootstrapped company. We didn't go raise a huge amount of money to go throw at that. But what we find is when there are technology devices that throw the money at it, because there's so much uncertainty, they end up charging huge rates for it, and so it makes it very hard for adoption. But one of the kind of encouraging things that we're seeing is, and change always comes at the margins. So we're building out a number of medical practitioners who are using the devices in their kind of with orthopedic surgery and recovery, with chiropractic clinics, with physical therapy clinics, and things like this. What we're finding with this is that there's the number of tools that are out there for people to be able to use for this type of application are limited. But when you start giving people an opportunity to test this on themselves and on their patients, they really see better outcomes, and they want that. These medical professionals want this, and so the private clinics that are providing these different type of services have been much faster to adopt, and we're seeing a huge adoption in that space over the last 6 months, and we think it's going to explode more in the near future, because the outcomes are there. These medical professionals really care about their patients. They really want to make a difference. But when they're part of a larger organization like a hospital or a chain of hospitals, it makes it much more difficult. So these private clinics have been much faster to adopt, and it's something I think that we're going to see hopefully spreading from that to the larger organizations as well.
Yes. Yes, me too. I hope to see it soon, but as we said, the reality and the wish is somewhere different. I
Yes.
have a bit of personal question too, because you are doing in the health sector with like this wearable Kineon red light. So I guess that you also take care a lot about your health when you are doing in this industry. So can you tell us more some tip and tricks on how actually good day, like health optimized day looks like according to you? So like from the time when you wake up until the end. Can you tell us some tip and tricks? What do you do in Mexico?
No problem. I actually consider myself as an N of one for testing. So we test a ton of different protocols, and I'll tell you the ones that have stuck. And if you have more time, I can go into the ones that didn't stick and why. But the ones that have stuck is 40-degree ice bath for 4 minutes every morning, followed by, and this is pre-coffee, straight out of the bed. My friend refers to this as eating the frog. So you have to eat the frog. You have to do your most difficult thing of the day before you go into anything else. And so I do two things. One is the straight out of bed ice bath, and then straight out of the ice bath onto an assault bike or an echo bike. So these air bikes are really powerful for metabolic conditioning. You can actually because they are air resistance. The resistance increases logarithmically. So if you increase as you're biking it, one cycle per minute, which isn't a huge increase, the actual increase in resistance is massive on that. And so it's a really good way to go do interval training straight out of the ice bath, and it really starts triggering a really healthier kind of metabolic condition for the body, which is really powerful, not just for losing weight or kind of looking better, but really has strong impacts on your cardiopulmonary system and on your brain. And for me, I'm not competing at a professional level for sports right now, but I would like my brain and my body to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And metabolic conditioning is a really powerful way of doing that. Then, yeah, essentially kind of low carb type general diet, low-ish carb, and using carbs as a fuel, essentially pre-workout for the rest of the day. There's a couple other things that have been super helpful from a recovery standpoint with the laser therapy. There's a Japanese group that's done a great amount of study on something they call the proximal priority therapy, which is essentially treating the blood in your major vessels in your neck. So every morning I treat the neck for 15 minutes like this, and then I treat my gut because the gut also triggers a number of different downstream positive impacts for the brain and blood from a health standpoint. With things like sleep and recovery, mouth tape has been life changing. We have a couple of friends with mouth tape companies, and if I can send you over some referrals for those, because it's just life changing. Breathing through your nose, forcing breathing through your nose as you sleep has been great. Um, we do have a brain device that we're working on that we're going to launch from a transcranial photobiomodulation standpoint next year. So I'm doing a lot of self-testing with that, and that's been really awesome, is treating the brain and improving microvascular and just general blood flow dynamics in the brain are improved by this. Sauna has been awesome, and sauna and contrast therapy is probably 3 times a week, so not daily, but because it does take quite a while. But 20-minute sauna sessions at above 180 degrees Fahrenheit above 100, so above 90, sorry, Celsius, and then going back into the 40-degree ice barrel, 2 or 3 times. Like this is a really nice one that's been very effective. And then, yeah, there's also some ketone-based things that. So our friend's company, Ketone IQ, you've probably heard of them. Makes a great ketone drink that's really good for distance work and also helps you kind of trigger a number of different downstream impacts from from a health and energetic, bioenergetic standpoint. So there's yeah, ongoing number of things like this, but yeah, creatine is a big winner. Yeah, I could probably could probably keep going for another 15 minutes on this, but I think those are the main ones that have been and breath work. I have to say, breath work and meditation, life changing. There's some good apps that support this. With I think Wim Hof has something. We've been testing one called Othership recently. That's a little bit hippie-ish and woo-woo, but is very effective in their protocols. And so yeah, I judge the in this case. If you're doing testing on yourself, you have to judge the tree by the fruit. So, like the fruit works, then we'll keep it and keep it rolling.
And what is this other ship from Wim Hof? What is it about?
So I think Wim Hof has a separate app, but Othership is just an app. They actually
Ah,
have
okay.
retail recovery spaces, but they also have breathing apps, and so it's people coaching you through guided breath work from 4 minutes to an hour long, and there's a number of different protocols and different outcomes you can use it for kind of upregulation, downregulation, calmness, clarity, etc. And testing through those, we actually it was referred to me by friend Thomas DeLauer, who's a really a great guy on kind of health and wellness testing from a fitness perspective, and he recommended it, and it's been really awesome. I've just been on it, been testing it out for about the last month and a half, and it's been really impactful for my daily mind space. From a removing, if you have a dip in the day after you eat, for example, sometimes you have brain fog that comes up from that, particularly if there's a higher carb meal. Adding these different type of upregulations in from a breathing standpoint post meal have been really helpful. So there's a number of different things you can apply it for, but yeah, there's just more and more tools out there. So it's a very exciting time to be in the health and wellness space.
Yes, I will definitely try it because I have the Wim Hof application and I'm using it, but definitely always open to try something else. Also, I can relate to other things like creatine, low carb. I do ice bath from time to time, but especially when it's actually cold, because like during summer, sometimes in the summer destination, I just cannot find the ice bath, and it's not yet normalized as, for example, sauna, that you usually don't really find it in some wellness or fitness. So it's a bit pity that, for example, yeah, that they don't really have it in some wellness when you are. And also, like when I tell to people that I do ice baths, they are like, "Oh my god, you are crazy! Why you do that?" Whereas when you say to people, "I do sauna," they are like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," you know. So it's I really see that still ice bath is something, because they are more like connecting it. Oh, you are from Czech Republic. In Czech Republic, it's cold, right? So you have it like cultural, and I'm like, no, we actually don't do ice baths because we are Czech, or like it's not culture. And just me myself, I want to do ice baths because it's good for the health. So it's very interesting for getting the contrast, etc.
Yes.
And you said that you are putting the red light on your stomach to actually heal your mitochondria. Is it like possible also with Kineon to put it on your stomach?
Yes. So the
Oh.
808 nanometer is a really good dosing wavelength for gut, and that's one of the things that started us in on developing our more targeted. So again, we're going to add 3 more wavelengths for that are specific for gut with our product later this year. So the dosing will be better out of this one. But the one we have right now, we have a business partner who has irritable bowel syndrome and ulcerative colitis, and these type of things are really heavy inflammation in the gut. Makes such a crazy difference in, like, he would have this flare up and have to go to the hospital and lose 30 or 40 pounds per time. And now when that starts kind of flaring up, he can actually just use the 808 nanometer from the Move Plus to be able to treat that and get that inflammation back down. And you don't think about how much that impacts you, but like it really took him out of complete functionality for months at a time when that would flare up for him. And so, yeah, we're very excited to be able, because it is going to make huge kind of lifestyle changes for people who use it.
Wow, that's cool. Now I have even double motivation to see my grandma. Not only that I love her and I want to see her, but also because now I want to track it on my stomach. So I'm really curious about it. I didn't know.
If you're interested as well, one other thing that I'm testing right now with our early betas for the gut product is there are certain kind of fiber based molecules that you can supplement with. I'm testing inulin right now because there's a really big impact for using inulin to increase short chain fatty acid and a number of different other metabolic outcomes from the bacteria in your stomach that just make you healthier. And so we're combining inulin with the gut therapy. And so if you're interested in trying out a new protocol, that could be something useful for you as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for the tip. And now I just would like to dive deeper into because you said that you have lots of things that didn't work for you. So like you get me a bit teased. So can you disclose what actually didn't work?
Yeah, there's a number of different things. So one of the ones is super heavy. So I was training competitive CrossFit for some time, and I found that the central nervous system impacts for me were too aggressive. So I was doing twice a day, heavy training, heavy lifting, and the outcome was I was getting sick. My immune system was impacted, and my central nervous system, and I was just tired a lot. So central nervous system kind of overload from a load standpoint. So modulating kind of workouts to be more manageable and kind of moving that in a little bit slower direction than the kind of the more aggressive ones. And again, this is something that maybe that it's a kind of middle age type thing. I'm in my mid 40s now. It might have been something my body would have responded to more effectively in my 20s. You have to also be able to be aware and kind of on top of negative impacts that these different type of trainings or recovery modalities have done. But yeah, I tried a number of different CBD and THC type sleep kind of supplements that didn't work out quite as well for me. I think there's a number of different things like this where there's just different supplements out there that hadn't kind of carried through for me quite as well. There's a number of different things that are kind of more sugar impactful than kind of different green powders and things like this, where the amount of sugar that was in those once you start using it on a daily basis were kind of had a more negative impact for me from a body composition standpoint. I think yeah, there's a bunch of things that don't work, but I think it's like there's one of the things that we were looking at a while back was velocity based training, and I don't think there's anything wrong with velocity based training, but I just didn't see the results that I was expecting out of it. So there were some companies like Push that where you can attach an IMU to your barbell and see how fast the barbell is moving and adjust your training relative to the velocity of that you're able to generate from a power generation standpoint. And again, that didn't work for me super well at the time. Yeah, I think that's the again there's a number of those I have to think about a little bit more, but there are a lot of things out there that don't work. And again, it may work for some people. I think we should always kind of think of ourselves as an N of one from a testing standpoint, because what works for you may work for you, but not for me. And it's the medical literature can lead us in a good direction, but not everyone's. That there's our physiology is so multivariate that not everything that works, even in very convincing and compelling medical trials is going to work for everyone. And so test, keep notes, and try to find this is one of the things that's been helpful for me at least, is test and keep notes and try to find data points for success versus failure for what your expectations are out of the different treatments.
Yes, and it's also about the time. Like sometimes, for example, it's not about changing everything from one day to another. There has to be like a really slow change of your body and getting into the new routine. We don't want you to get a burnout, definitely.
Yes.
So, and it's about the connection with the body to understand how the body is trying to communicate with you. There were also times, for example, when I was a teenager and I was super jealous about my friends who could eat McDonald's and KFC all the time, and now today I am like super actually happy that my body had this kind of reactions, that I was not eating that much of a fast food because my body just didn't feel good after
Yes.
that. But that time I was like super sad because I wanted to eat it like them without having any kind of reflection. And it's always about the connection of our body to ourselves and finding what works for us. But I have to actually like agree with what you said, like For me, like the supplements which are a mixture of the, I prefer like pure supplements. Like for example, when you buy creatine, you take the creatine. When you, for example, buy zinc, you are getting zinc. But the worst, what doesn't work for me is the supplements that are a mixture of different
Yes.
things, because you don't have transparency and visibility of what is the exact amount of the certain ingredients inside the supplements. So it's, for example, that they add the sugar, or for example, there is now a big boom, because there was a big boom around the supplements, which is called one. Like
Yes.
everybody was talking about it, but now they actually realize that it's not that good. That actually why they are so successful is because of the marketing. So it's one of the examples. The
Yes.
CBD, I have to say, I also didn't like, but it got into another level with the research. So I would say that like 3 years ago, when I tried the CBD, I didn't like it at all. It didn't help me. I felt like after hangover in the morning. But in the health optimization summit, also where we met you, I actually tried new CBD. I was a bit skeptical about, because I was telling to the guy who had a stand there that I am not really fan of CBD because I didn't felt really good, and he told me that their CBD is actually after a long research. So like there is a lots of researches recently about the CBD, and they are like the new kind of modern style of CBDs, and that one worked for me. But still, I'm like really slow on that. Like it's not my kind of style. And
Yes.
CrossFit, I also totally agree. I prefer to do like I like weightlifting. I do it like 3 4 times per week, but I like it on my own pace to really feel my muscles, and to really rather like think around. But it's also because I'm female and I need to take into consideration all of the complex issues like a cycle, etc. So this is also another aspect. So my last question would be, because you are entrepreneur, so what would you advise to other people who are currently in thinking about the entrepreneurship, or they are in the early stage of entrepreneurship, because there are a lots of up and downs in the whole journey. So what would you advise them to keep in their mind?
Two things that have been very helpful for me, and hopefully they can work for other people as well, is start with a purpose and then work backwards from what outcome you'd like to deliver. And so when you start with a purpose, again, I mentioned it earlier. Our purpose was to improve the quality of life for the largest number of people we can in the most measurable way we can, and that's really kind of run through every single strategic decision, every hire, every kind of go to market, our product roadmaps, everything in the business is built around that. And when you're connected with that purpose and you see the impact of what you're doing align with that purpose, then those ups and downs smooth out. Even when you're down, you know that these impacts that you intended to make, you're making. And then the second piece that I think someone told me a long time ago, and that has been very helpful, is um, envision the outcome that you want to make, and then work backwards and do what it takes to make that. And so a lot of times I think everyone in our personal lives and our professional lives can get caught in a default mode, where we're just kind of you respond to the email or you respond to what's in front of you. But if you don't have that kind of downstream picture of what you really want to do, then you kind of get pulled into the current of reactiveness and responsiveness instead of really driving change and driving what you'd like to see, being the change that you'd like to see, type of thing. And being able to work backwards makes a huge difference.
Yes. So we are then fighting on many fronts. Yes. So thank you so much, Forrest, for this discussion. We really went from a really detailed explanation of the Kineon into actually what works for you for the health optimization. And we covered also the purpose of the entrepreneurship, which, for example, for us in Innovatology is actually to close the digital gap and to equip you with the new tools and the new innovations to make your lives personal or professional more effective. And I hope that Kineon would also help you to make your metabolism more healthier, and also inflammation to decrease it, so that you have less illnesses. So thank you so much, and see you in our next episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.